All right, so we are live on Instagram and on YouTube. Do you think that only medium and large size businesses have to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Hi, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me. In less than 15 minutes, I'll be sharing with you 3 things to help you with answering that question. Please like and share this video if you get value from it. I'm Dr. P. I'm a strategic business coach, and I've been a school psychologist for about 10 years in K-12 schools in the US on the East and on the West Coast. And I've served on professional organization committees, and I teach in a master's psychology program, an online program. And I can tell you from my experiences living in so many states and so many different countries and traveling all over the world, I can say diversity is all around us. It really is. I grew up in the Caribbean, lovely island of Barbados. Really love where I'm from. If you've ever visited, you know how gorgeous it is there. And in Barbados, we have Barbadians of different skin tones, from different religions, with different religions. We have some who live in the country, some who live in the city, and we got suburbs too. Even though we are a tiny little island, yeah, we have all of these things. And we also have in Barbados first generation Barbadians. Hey, and what I mean by that is kind of similar to here in the US or whichever country you're in when you hear about first generation American or first generation Canadian or first generation UK. What I'm talking about are people who are living in Barbados whose parents are not originally from Barbados but moved there because they love the island. You know, they visited and they love the island so much. So they decided to make the island home. And these are people from other Caribbean islands, such as Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Grenada, St. Vincent, Montserrat, Dominica, and even Guyana. Even though technically Guyana is not an island, but it's still part of the Caribbean. And the thing is, we get people who move from all over the Caribbean. And we also get people who come from different parts of the world, from different parts of the US, Canada, UK, Spain, France, Germany, India, China. We have people who've moved from different parts of the world and decided to make Barbados their home. So again, we have diversity all around us. And it really adds to all of the life and culture that we do have in Barbados. And with the moving of people, when people move from different countries to come to make Barbados home, guess what? They brought their food and some of their traditions as well. So we get all of that on this tiny little island. And we have people who speak different languages. We have individuals who represent different sexual orientations. We have a whole mixture on the island. I love it. It's all these different things you can get on the island. And that's just some of the diversity, because we also have diversity among the industries, you know, in terms of individuals who graduated from secondary school with their certificates, which is equivalent to high school diploma here in the US. And we have individuals who graduated with associate degrees, master's degrees, doctoral degrees, postdoctoral degrees, post-fellowship degrees, all these various levels of degrees, basically. And they are employed in different aspects on the island in different industries. And again, a lot of different things that are happening. And with it comes different skill sets. That's what happens as well. We have people from different backgrounds with different skill sets, and they bring all those things into the workplace. So I'm sure that wherever you're watching this video from, or you're listening to it on the podcast, you have similar diversity happening around you as well. And diversity is not just about skin color. There's so many varieties and elements of diversity. Just want to check here on this Instagram, make sure it is actually flowing well. Hold on. Oh, it's reconnecting over there on Instagram. Making sure it's going well. Okay, so we are back to today's topic, right? And today's topic is diversity in the workplace. Do you have to be a medium or a large size business just to be focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion? That's what we want to be talking about. That's what we're talking about today. And diversity is not just about skin color. Again, there's so many different elements of diversity. And you have to, as a business owner, think about all those aspects of diversity, or as many as you can, beyond just skin color, because when you do that, it can be very beneficial to you and your business, because the diversity that you have on your team brings with it diversity in terms of problem solving, in terms of ideas, and with that diversity can help you create things that you didn't necessarily think of. Because think of it this way: do you want to have a business where you have employees that all of them think the same way as you? Come on, do you really want that? Or do you want a mixture in there? Do you want to have employees where everybody has the same skill set, or do you want a mixture on your team, right? So those are things that I really encourage you to think about, because again, do you think that only medium and large size businesses need to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because I'm here to tell you, no, it doesn't matter if you're a small, medium, or large size business. When you're focusing on creating an organization that incorporates diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're in a by far much better position to be building a successful business. Why? Because you are incorporating diversity. But with incorporating diversity, we also need to make sure that we're engaging in equitable practices and that the work environment is an inclusive environment. As a school psychologist, I work with colleagues and families from over 15 different countries that spoke over 10 different languages and all the different cultural experiences. And I learned a lot from not just reading in a text, but by actually interacting with real life people from different cultures, different countries, and speaking different languages. And with that comes that value in understanding diversity and knowing how to provide equitable opportunities. And this is why I really wanted to share this topic, because as small business owners, we still have to be looking at providing equitable opportunities if we want a diverse workforce, right? Because if you bring in diversity, we do have to provide the necessary supports for our diverse team. So now you might be saying that it's not so easy or simple to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion into your small business. Or you might be even saying, oh my God, I ain't got the money for that because that sounds real expensive and that's not something that I really can afford to do right now. But here's the thing. Why do you think it has to be so expensive, right? Just to be including diversity, equity, and inclusion into your small business practices. I mean, seriously, why do you think it has to be so expensive? It could be because of some things you've seen in the news, some things people have said to you, or just not even understanding what's involved. Because honestly, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not something that just sits out there and stands alone. It's not just, excuse me, is not just hiring a diversity officer or a chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer and having a standalone department. It's not that. It should be incorporated into everything that you're currently doing for your business. It is not a standalone. It incorporates and weaves throughout what you're doing for your business, right? So it's not as that expense that you're thinking, that you're probably thinking that it is. So I want to share 3 actions that you can be taking as a small business owner to help with creating diversity, equity, and inclusion within your workplace, or to improve it. Because some of you might already be doing these things, but just need some ways of improving what you currently have. So these 3 actions I am going to talk about, I actually took these 3 from a Gallup article I was reading recently, and I figured, you know what, these are really good to share. And I want to use them to help give you some ideas on what you can do if you aren't already including diversity, equity, and inclusion, or you're looking at ways of how you can improve it, right? Are you ready for this? So those 3 actions that I want to talk about. Here's the first one. Assess your company's current state and determine the priorities that you have for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So these priorities can include increasing the number of women that you currently have as employees, increasing the number of employees who represent individuals of color, increasing employees from a certain age group with a particular skill set, maybe even programs that you have available for your employees. And to do this, you might have to engage in what could be considered difficult or uncomfortable conversations with your staff, because you want to be gathering information from your staff. The data you're going to be reviewing isn't just data that you're going to sit down and try to think about watching the problem from afar. That's not what it is. It is going to be you getting information from your employees and using that information to help with setting these priorities. Like I said, be sure to get the information from your employees, from your team members, before you decide, okay, they say I'm supposed to do diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, let me just go out there and start making changes. Don't do that, because just like anything else that you have in your business, when you make changes that way, how likely are they going to last? Probably not, right? And how likely are people going to be on board with it? Probably not. Hence why it's going to be very important to make sure that you are including your team members in this data gathering process. So that's number one. Number two is determine how you will actually get the work done for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because it's all well and good to collect data. It's all well and good to sit down and analyze that data, but you got to actually implement it, right? You can have an amazing plan, but if you never implement that plan, then what good is the plan, right? So you want to make sure that when you are creating the teams to actually implement the diversity, equity, and inclusion practices based on the information you've gathered, you want to look at having individuals from different departments, because with that, they're going to be bringing different perspectives, because everybody plays a role within your organization, right? And have employees of different levels as well. You're going to be talking about roles and responsibilities as being a member of that team. You got to also be sure to allocate some resources to support what your DEI team is going to be talking about in terms of the identified need that the employees and the team have, and how that implementation is going to be. So really look at those resources. And you incorporate a continuous plan for how employees are going to actually communicate with you, because you don't want this to seem like a one-off. Because I don't know about you, I've worked in organizations where they talk really, really big, right? And they talk about all this change is going to happen. Sounds really great while we're sitting down in that session, maybe good for a week, and then like 2 months later, nobody's really talking about it, because there's no plan. There was no plan in place for communication for how you're going to continue those efforts that they talked about. So don't let that be you with your diversity, equity, and inclusion plans. Have a communication plan in place where employees and team members can continue to collaborate and communicate about what's going on. And it shows that commitment to the DEI work as well. And identify your metrics, because just like anything else you're going to be doing, once you're implementing this, you want to make sure that you are being able to track progress. And if you're tracking progress, what are you using to track progress? That is something you have to identify. So that's where the metrics come into play. Identify the metrics that you're going to be tracking to determine how good your efforts are, how much progress that you're actually making. And be sure to collect some feedback from your team during your implementation phase, because you want to make sure that you're getting that feedback and making the changes based on the feedback that you are getting. And I said and a lot of times for this number two. So there are a lot of ands. So, and you also don't want to just look at what somebody else is doing and think that you're going to do that for your business, because your diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, processes, procedures, however you want to phrase it, should be unique to your own company. Why? Because you are tailoring what you need to do based on your employees and your team, your company's vision and mission. So it's going to be tailored to what your individual, as a company, what your individual company needs. So don't just take somebody else on and think you're going to put it in yours and that it's going to work. Don't work like that. You still need to put in time, energy, and work into making sure you create a plan that's based on your own business. And the last action I wanted to share, number 3, is monitor for sustainability. Because as the leader of the small business, you have to set the tone for clear expectations and accountability, not just for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but for everything that you're going to be putting in place and you're expecting employees to follow up on. They're going to be looking at you as that model, as that example for implementing anything that you're seeing, they also need to be implementing. So be visible in the development phase. Be visible in the implementation efforts for diversity, equity, inclusion. Show that alignment with the company's vision and mission for what the diversity, equity, and inclusion team has come up with based on your own organization, right? Demonstrate being proactive in collaborating and communicating with other members of your organization. So I know you might be saying, oh my gosh, these three things sound real broad. And here's the thing. You can make it specific, and you should make it specific to your business, because like I mentioned before, your business is your business. So whatever your needs are unique to your business, and the plan you're going to come up with should be crafted based on the needs of your business. So you can rewatch this video to get those three things, or replay that podcast to get those three things. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Dr. Priscilla Kuser with Priscilla Kuser Consulting Solutions. Remember, solutions plus actions equals results. Thanks, y'all.